How your thoughts are secretly creating your bank account. Have you ever considered that your mind creates your bank account? Have you ever paused long enough to consider that your mind creates your bank account? Not symbolically, not metaphorically, but literally, energetically, and psychologically. Before money ever becomes numbers on a screen, it begins as a belief inside your nervous system. A belief about safety, worth, and permission. This isn't about positive thinking. It's about recognizing that your inner world is always designing your outer results, whether you're conscious of it or not. Not your job, not the economy, not luck. It's not your job title, the economy, or random luck deciding your financial reality. Those are surface-level factors. Beneath them lives something much deeper, your internal relationship with value. Two people can work equally hard in the same environment and experience completely different outcomes. The difference is never effort alone. It's the belief system they're operating from. Money moves toward alignment, not exhaustion. But the story you repeat to yourself every single day. What truly shapes your bank account is the story you repeat internally every single day. The quiet sentences you don't even realize you're saying. Stories about how capable you are, how deserving you are, how much you're allowed to receive. These stories become subconscious instructions, and the subconscious always obeys repetition, not logic. Whatever you keep telling yourself becomes the rule your life follows. Every thought you think moves outward into the universe. Every thought you think isn't contained inside your head. It carries emotional charge, and that charge moves outward. Your nervous system broadcasts information constantly through posture, tone, decision-making, and risk tolerance. This is how energy actually works in real life. Thoughts shape emotions. Emotions shape behavior. Behavior shapes results. The universe doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to patterns. And whatever you send out must return as a match. What you send out always returns, not as punishment or reward, but as resonance. If your internal signal is scarcity, hesitation, or self-doubt, life mirrors that frequency back through delayed payments, limited opportunities, or financial stagnation. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because coherence creates consistency. The external world reflects the internal environment you're most familiar with. If the thought is negative, the reflection can only be negative. When the dominant thought is rooted in fear, shame, or unworthiness, the reflection cannot suddenly become abundance. Money is neutral. It doesn't override belief, it follows it. If your inner world is trained to expect lack, the nervous system unconsciously avoids expansion. This is why people self-sabotage right before breakthroughs. The body is protecting what feels familiar, even when it hurts. Most of society was never taught this. Most of society was never taught how deeply the subconscious influences money. We were educated on effort, obedience, and survival, but not self-concept, emotional regulation, or energetic responsibility. So people blame systems without realizing they're unconsciously reinforcing the same patterns daily. Awareness was never the goal of mass conditioning, but awareness is the beginning of freedom. We were taught to believe we're only worth a few dollars an hour. From a young age, we were trained to calculate our worth in hours, to trade time for approval, to equate exhaustion with value. Over time, that teaching becomes identity, and identity becomes a financial ceiling. When you believe your worth is limited, your receiving capacity shrinks. Not because money disappears, but because your system doesn't feel safe holding more than what it was trained to expect. But your value was never meant to be hourly. Your value was never meant to be hourly, conditional, or permission-based. Your value exists before productivity, before validation, before proof. When you reconnect to that truth, something shifts internally. You stop negotiating your worth with the world. You stop shrinking to fit survival roles. And money begins to respond differently, not because you force it, but because your self-perception has changed. You are worth far more than you were trained to believe. And the moment this stops being an idea and starts becoming a felt truth, your decisions change. You choose differently. You speak differently. You tolerate less. Abundance doesn't arrive through convincing, it arrives through embodiment. When your body believes you are enough, life rearranges to confirm it. The reason your bank account shows the same numbers keeps showing the same numbers isn't because you're stuck, it's because repetition creates stability. The subconscious loves familiarity, even when it's painful. If nothing changes internally, nothing can sustainably change externally. Money plateaus are almost always identity plateaus. Expansion requires an internal update before an external one. It's because you keep admitting the same inner number. Admitting is different from affirming. You can say anything, but what you admit is what you actually believe, what you emotionally accept as truth. If you admit limitation, the universe mirrors limitation. If you admit possibility, space opens. The universe doesn't argue, it confirms. Your bank account follows the number you feel safe identifying with. The universe doesn't speak English. The universe doesn't process language the way humans do. It doesn't respond to motivational phrases or forced positivity. Words without congruence hold no signal. What carries weight is emotional truth, coherence between thought, feeling, and action. When those align, the signal becomes clear. When they conflict, results stall. It speaks energy, frequency, numbers. Energy is information, frequency is repetition, numbers are feedback. This is why patterns matter more than moments. The universe responds to what you consistently embody, not what you hope for occasionally. Money follows energetic clarity. Confusion creates delay. Certainty creates movement. This isn't mystical, it's systemic. So when you admit, "I'm not good enough," when you admit deep down that you're not good enough, life doesn't punish you. It organizes around that belief. Opportunities feel heavier. Receiving feels uncomfortable. Success creates anxiety instead of relief. The system is protecting coherence. It's trying to keep your inner and outer worlds aligned, even when that alignment limits you. The universe simply reflects that belief back to you. The universe reflects belief with precision, not emotion, not fairness, just accuracy. If you believe you're limited, results confirm limitation. If you believe you're capable, results slowly expand. Reflection isn't judgment, it's feedback. And feedback is power when you know how to listen. Your bank account isn't judging you. Your bank account isn't judging your worth, intelligence, or potential. It's simply responding to the version of you that feels most real. Money holds no moral weight, it's neutral data. When you remove shame from the equation, clarity appears. And clarity is what creates sustainable change. It's mirroring your self-concept. Your self-concept is the blueprint. How you see yourself determines how life treats you. Money doesn't exceed identity for long. If identity expands, income follows. If identity contracts, income reflects that too. The mirror never lies. It only waits for you to adjust the image. But the moment you realize, there comes a moment of realization, not dramatic, but quiet. A pause where you stop chasing worth and start remembering it, where effort softens and presence deepens. This moment changes everything because it shifts the internal authority from fear to awareness. I am enough, I am one, I am present, I am aware. This isn't an affirmation to convince yourself, it's a recognition, a return. When you feel into enoughness, your nervous system relaxes. When the body feels safe, creativity flows. When creativity flows, value multiplies. Abundance begins as internal coherence, not external proof. Everything begins to shift. Shifts don't arrive as explosions. They arrive as subtle reorientations. You stop forcing, you start allowing. You choose alignment over urgency. These internal shifts change how you show up, and the world responds differently because you're no longer asking from lack. When you love yourself, you emit a different signal. Self-love isn't indulgence, it's regulation. A regulated nervous system emits safety, clarity, and confidence. That signal attracts opportunities without chasing. People trust it. Money flows toward it, not because of charisma, but because of coherence. When you stop proving and start expressing, proving comes from fear. Expression comes from alignment. When you stop trying to earn permission and start sharing what's natural to you, value becomes obvious. Effort decreases. Impact increases. This is where abundance accelerates naturally. Your talents become an offering, not a struggle. When your talents come from wholeness instead of proving, they stop draining you. They stop feeling heavy or transactional. They become an offering, something that flows naturally from who you are, not something you force to survive. This is where money meets you in balance, not through hustle or burnout, but through resonance. When what you give feels aligned, what you receive feels clean, supportive, and sustainable. This path isn't easy because it asks you to unlearn what once kept you safe. It asks you to release identities built around struggle, overworking, and self-sacrifice. Growth can feel uncomfortable because familiarity dissolves. But difficulty doesn't mean misalignment. Often it means you're moving beyond survival and into self-trust, something the nervous system needs time to adjust to. But it is aligned. Alignment doesn't always feel exciting, but it feels calm. There's less resistance in your body, less urgency in your decisions. Even when challenges arise, there's a sense of inner steadiness. You're no longer fighting life, you're moving with it. And when effort is guided by alignment instead of fear, results become more consistent and supportive. And the universe always responds to alignment. The universe responds to alignment not instantly, but accurately. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions point in the same direction, momentum builds naturally. Opportunities connect, support appears. This is not luck, it's coherence. Life responds when your inner signal becomes clear and stable, because clarity creates movement. Your bank account is simply a reflection. Your bank account is not a life sentence, it's information. It shows you where you feel safe, where you hesitate, and where expansion still feels unfamiliar. When you remove judgment from the numbers, they become guidance. Reflection gives you power, because what can be seen can be shifted. Of how safe you feel receiving more. Receiving more requires capacity, not just desire. As your nervous system learns safety, your capacity expands. You allow yourself to hold more responsibility, more visibility, more abundance without contraction. And as safety grows inside you, the external numbers adjust naturally. Money follows regulation, not pressure. Comment "I choose a new number" when you're ready to shift your reality. If something inside you felt seen while listening to this, pause for a moment and breathe. Then comment "I choose a new number." Not to convince the universe, but to acknowledge yourself. This is a moment of awareness, a moment of choice, and choice is where change begins. You don't have to force abundance, you only have to become available for it. When you're ready, the numbers follow.